Hola and welcome to The Get Down. I'm Ritzy P. In this episode's All Things Butterscotch segment with CEO and Managing Editor of Butterscotch Media, Cleve Mesidor, we will discuss what's ahead for Butterscotch Media now that the podcast is live. And today's guest, we have Betsabe Botaitis. She is the CFO and Treasurer of Hedera, and we'll be discussing her journey from finance to Web3, why she's passionate about financial inclusion, and so much more. So now let's get into all things butterscotch with Cleve Mesidor.
Hey there. How are you?
How are you, Cleve? Welcome. So there's been so much positive feedback about the weekly tip sheet choose. So how will you build on that success?
Yes, we launched Butterscotch Media in March 2024. And just, a few months later, oh my God, the impact has been more than I could have imagined. The newsletter has over 6,500 subscribers, engaged subscribers, and we're getting such positive feedback about the issues. Our approach is different. Choose our newsletter doesn't look like the typical newsletter. We use bold colors and a lot of visuals to tell the story because we're talking about inclusion. We want to, put forth culture, and we want to spotlight the hidden figures, these dynamic, indigenous, Latinx, Black founders and executives and experts out there. So very excited to build on what we're doing with the newsletter, but also the podcast. The podcast has been amazing. Thank you for hosting. People are very engaged. They love the conversations, and we have so much more coming up.
Right. So now that the podcast is live and we have inaugural episodes, make sure to go listen or see those. And the weekly newsletter is thriving. Cleve, what's next?
So we're planning our live events. So our motto is definitely, the newsletter. We have one so far. We're going to add another one at the end of the year. The podcast and live events where we again focus on policy, industry trends, and market research. Our first big live event will be in Chicago during the DNC convention. We're going to have a fireside chat and a panel discussion. Our focus is policy, not politics. But there's a lot of policy that's not being introduced when it comes to financial inclusion and capital formation. And we need to make sure that is top of mind.
Right. And speaking of who we have coming on today's episode as a guest, Betsabe Botaitis.
Oh my God, I am so excited about this episode. Betsabe is an executive at Hedera, and she comes from, the financial industry. She used to work for Citigroup in the banking sector, but specifically community lending. And I love how she always makes sure people know she's an entrepreneur at heart, right? So it's not just finance. Entrepreneurship is core to her heart. And then Web3, so that ingredients for her from banking to entrepreneurship to now Web3 has just created this formula where, her passion comes through, and I'm excited, just like the audience, to, hear what she has to say.
Well, thank you so much, Cleve, for bringing us the latest, and look forward to our next discussion on all things butterscotch. So let's welcome our butterscotch queen, Betsabe Botaitis. She is the CFO and Treasurer of Hedera. She has over 15 years in the finance industry. She's originally from Guadalajara, Mexico. She works closely with organizations advancing economic equality and financial inclusion. She is on the advisory board of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center and is a member of Fortune's Most Powerful Women. Hola, Betsabe. Welcome, and thank you for being here today. How are you? ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias. Hola, Ritzy. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah. Okay, so, you have a rich and diverse financial background. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, I have a very rich professional background, and I'm very happy that in a way I started my career early on from the bottom in large traditional financial institutions, in banks. Then I moved from banks to learn about more of the FinTech world. And I have been able to be at different stages of business. But I think that I went a little bit backwards. So usually people start in what we know right now, more younger people that are coming out of careers. So people start on startups and then they go to big institutions. I feel like I actually started from large institutions and then went gradually kind of steps down into to be able to learn the entire life cycle of a business. So from being in a banking system early on, from being a teller at a very young age, to move into climb the ladder in the financial system and have very senior roles, then I didn't want to be named as a banker. I didn't see ever myself as a banker, saw myself more as an entrepreneur. So I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. And at that time I was living in San Francisco and everyone was an entrepreneur, and it sounded like everyone have an impact on other people's lives. So I went from traditional financial institutions to the fintech work in that time, peer-to-peer lending early on. Then went through a process of an IPO, one of the top lenders in 2010s, in 2010. Then from there, again, I could really have this strategy of taking steps down on the ladder towards becoming an entrepreneur and be able to build that skill set. So from P2P lending, I went into a new operating in leading finance and other departments, HR and compliance operations for a neobank in Mexico. And then from then I became an entrepreneur. So I think that really this experience gave me the opportunity to learn at all the stages in the company. So from being an entrepreneur on blockchain, I went back to FinTech on buy now, pay later, and now I'm back in blockchain. So it's really kind of the entire cycle, always in finance roles primarily, but in added responsibilities like compliance, HR, operations, customer service.
Right. So you're saying how you feel that you went the opposite way of some folks, right? Because you were in a traditional, large, established, financial institution. But do you feel, looking back now at that trajectory that you've had, so diverse and, non-linear in a little way, that really helped you because you were at a big financial institution and then you went to the entrepreneur route with startups? Do you think that route that you took really helped you to understand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like right now, I have little buckets of knowledge where I take a little bit of each of knowledge from the experiences I had through my career, because they have been super diverse. And now in my position right now as a CFO Hedera, which is a global role with a lot of responsibilities, and it's never a dull day, especially in blockchain, as all of you know. It gave me the opportunity to see solutions in a very creative way, solutions to problems, and identified opportunities in many different ways. But something very interesting about my career path is when I wanted to become an entrepreneur, from being a very senior executive at Citigroup, at a large institution, no one wanted to hire me. Like, I wanted to be working on startups, and they didn't want this experience. Like, no, you come from the big, evil, large institutions. We don't want someone like you. And it was really hard. It was really hard. And I had to rephrase my mindset and really be able to say, like, when you are similar to when you are running, that you need to slow down or take a step back. Right. It's the same thing. At every time, at every turn of my career, I had to reinvent myself, and I have to be able to take a step back from positions, never from responsibilities, because I feel like every time I took on more, but from position, from titles, from salary, from everything, it was always an investment to be able to take a step back, because every single opportunity, every single time that I changed career, it was by me knocking at the doors, by me making the decision of, I want to learn something new. I want to expand my knowledge base. Now I want to keep growing. For example, when I moved from the P2P lending company that went IPO, I was working at a lending club, went through the IPO of lending club, and then left lending club. And I really wanted to learn what it is to fundraise from the bottom, from seed. So what better way to do it than being an entrepreneur? And when you're an entrepreneur, it completely is a different experience. Just your state of mind, you're ultra happy, ultra sad all the time. There is
Right.
always these extremes. You're never in the middle. But then how to be able to pull a business plan, how to convince someone in investing in you and trusting you with their money, with their money of the fund, with the money of the BC or the family office, because you have an idea and you want to build that idea. But also that opportunity and that experience helped me build the relationship with my co-founders and understand that we are more powerful together, that many minds really can create amazing things. So there is a lot of things that I can tell you on and on and on about how important I see a diverse experience and knowledge base. And that's also how I hire, based on diversity, because then everyone has these group buckets that they come and put into versus having one single path that it sometimes make you don't see the solutions and make you very silo in terms of the perceptions to the world, especially in global operations.
Right. And especially in this new ecosystem that we're all a part of, there's so much potential to create brand new, exciting things. And you want folks that have that creative problem solving, that they're able to pull from so many different areas, that have knowledge like you because of your vast experience of all these different things. So I wanted to go back a little bit. In your nonlinear career path, what was the moment or who introduced or what did you see or what did you read that led you to, oh, let me get into emerging tech Web3?
That's an excellent question. I think that it was a natural transition. Being in Citigroup and being working on finance and operations for community development, and at the time was the microfinance department that then changed to be the financial inclusion department. But one of the amazing opportunities that role brought into my life is to see how many foundations and how many social investment was being built early on when the Beast of the World, so the Rockefeller of the World Foundations, and so many like the Cleve initiatives and so on, they were trying to really have lasting impact. And they were including Citigroup. We were investing in the communities and we were moving from what at the time we called this sprinkles of goodness, just having a check of $5,000 or $15,000 just to take a picture to sponsor a table, and really change into more strategic. How can you have more lasting impact and really those funds invested can go to the beneficiary, to the ultimate people? Because in banking, when in community development, that is to comply with the Community Reinvestment Act, which recently has changed and evolved, it really has people have face, and most of the time they have a name. It's not just volumes. It's really impacting the financial safety nets and the financial position of millions, and hopefully in a positive way. So one of the things that I saw is a lot of money moving from one hand to another hand, and there is a lot of amazing people, great ideas, but really hardly touching the surface in terms of including the underserved at the bank, hardly touching the services in terms of alleviating poverty, but it's millions of people and billions of dollars that every year is spent on that. And it's very simple to us. Why? Why we haven't advanced so much? Why is it so costly? So what's very natural for me, well, what is the other thing that's going to help us? Technology. So then technology became kind of an exception. I became obsessed with technology. What are the technology advancements that can help us to really make this a reality, that it can help us to include those? And then a lot of the research shows that a lot of the underbanked individuals and individuals are highly credit worthy. But then credit is so expensive because you have heavy, huge operating machines. And that's when FinTech came out and start changing a little bit, but still FinTech are startups that they fundraise money, that they have to have lending capacities, capital lending capacities, and all entire operations that is costly. So then we are coming back on this cycle of everything is so costly in terms of the operation machine behind it, which is all good intentions and great thoughts and relatively good business models, but it just is not impacting the way that it should. That's how I started first getting obsessed. And in 2014, early 2014, I was introduced to Bitcoin. One of my friends introduced me to the digital money concept and how concept of digital societies could really impact, and I got obsessed into it. And I remember very clearly that Stan and I, my friend's name is Stan from Hub Culture. So Stan and I, we were having an Oxford style debate. The motion was we were pro the motion. Money as we know it today is going to change. And the counterparty was Stefan Robert, who became my co-founder on the blockchain company. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, alive. And he was against the motion. So, and the funny thing is that he was the person that absolutely believed money is going to change. So that debate, sorry, it's a long story to get to the point, but that debate opened my eyes. That debate, because I didn't know nothing. And yes, they told me a night before that I need to do the debate the next day in less than 12 hours, and I had to learn everything in 2014, where I could in less than 3 hours. What does digital money mean? And how is it going to impact societies and the traditional financial systems? So that was the beginning of now what I consider my lifelong passion and something that I want to keep working on. And I see great opportunities for all of us in many different industries, not only in finance.
So, you explained to us how you're very passionate about financial inclusion, and that really fueled you into Web3 because you saw the potential, like you said, the societal impact. And I think that's what a lot of us, why we're here. That's why I'm here, is exactly like you. When I heard that this could really impact our community and other marginalized communities in such a profound, long-lasting way, that's when I got deep rabbit hole. What I want to learn as much as possible and be connected to folks like you. So now that you're, at Hedera, can you tell us a little bit more of what you're doing there and what Hedera is about?
Yes, of course. And I was laughing because what I do is super interesting, and I want to be careful not getting ultra technical. Okay. But the reason that I said that is because, being a finance professional for many years, coming at Hedera has been absolutely one of the most challenging jobs, but at the same time, the most fascinating. And the reason being is because, yes, from the purely academic perspective as an accountant and finance professional, when we are operating in two different set of books, we need to understand what we call the fiat world, and we need to understand the digital assets, and everything that we do is double. So we need to learn to be more efficient with two different concepts. One highly regulated that we have to do cap compliance, and the other one that not yet, but there is coming. There is more and more guidance coming out. But in a way, at the beginning, it was always the wild west, and is like, I feel like you're always living in those two worlds. And I feel like, again, like I'm an immigrant from Mexico, so it's always like living in two worlds. But it's fascinating because I can see the potential of having now a very public, transparent ledger that we can see all the transactions, and we are able to understand what happened in terms of revenue, what happened in terms of transfers, with what is the entire story, and be able to leverage on AI to be able to be faster in everything that we do. However, still we are on the fiat world, and the fiat world takes a lot longer than the digital assets world to be able, in terms of accounting and closing the books. But the digital world is something that we are even more careful because, as I said, there are not very specific guidelines yet. What I do in day to day as a CFO of Hedera is really putting the infrastructure and ensuring that we build trust, not only through our technology, but we build trust on everything that we do, and we help set standards of this new world. When I believe that every single CFO and treasurer must learn digital assets. It's not about should I? It's not about, I gonna wait. No, it is now. It's happening. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of council members. Hedera is governed by council members, which are from Fortune 500 companies to very credible universities, and they all come to govern the network, and they are all building on the network. Now, what does that mean is they are having a lot of use cases and they are building more and more business models and operational efficiencies into their business. But yet I see the backend office staying behind. I still hear a lot of CFOs and treasurers saying, why do I need to? It's too much. It's costly. And I can say, yeah, perhaps, yes, it is. But really, it is not. If you have to do it, it is everyone that hasn't have a minimum understanding we are behind on the finance, and you need to understand it. And now with all the conversations about AI, with even more reason, blockchain and understanding how the blockchain ledger brings trust to this new set of data that AI is creating, and validating that set of data is even more important. Now we can do a lot of predictions with AI. We can combine the ledger with that. And I can go on and on because it's one of the things that I think that I mentioned a few in other podcasts and in other conversations is that what I'm doing at Hedera is ensuring that the centralized world really comes to fruition. When we are building a financial infrastructure, when they're not going to need me, that they are not going to need any finance, that it's going to be technology that really helps to build the books, help to create data for decision making. So people like me and my team, by the way, I have an amazing team, then me and my team can help the businesses, can be close partners to the businesses and be able to provide insights and work on a strategy. We're not number crunchers. And I never saw myself as a number cruncher, in part because of my diverse experience that I had to always add value to the business, not only do Excel sheets.
Right. So you're taking that as a skill, but applying it with everything that you've learned thus far to see the overall vision, and you bring that, the value of the way you think, your experience, and everything like that. So do you have any projects that you're excited about that you want to share with our audience today?
Well, there are so many. But one of the things that I'm particularly excited being, as I said, an immigrant from Mexico and coming from a very humble family, that's also why I'm very passionate about financial inclusion, is how stable coins are going to impact the world. How stable coins, I mean, we can see right now in countries like Argentina, the high level of the Argentine peso. I can see the efficiencies they bring in through blockchain rails and digital assets to be able to make remittances. I can see it every day, how it helps others, how you can do transfers in less than 10 minutes. The most slow blockchain Bitcoin is 10 minutes instead of having to depend on a bank that is going to charge you quite a lot, and it has a lot of restrictions that frankly are difficult even for someone sophisticated on finance. It takes a lot of time. But I think that access to better transfer through remittances, asset building through stable coins will get all these Latin American countries closer and closer to a traditional financial system. It will not only get us closer to traditional systems, but truly disrupt it, because we are early adopters. They're early adopters and they have different needs. And we see more and more the youth requesting those new services and not wanting to be, for 2 hours on the line of a bank because that was the only access that you have in Mexico. I lived through it and I keep going and I keep seeing that. And I wonder, why do we have to go through that? There's so many technology that enable us to make their lives easier. So I see a little bit of that revolution, a financial revolution that I'm very excited about. And at Hedera, we created something called a stablecoin studio that enables to create and prototype stablecoins very quickly. So that's one of the things I'm very passionate. But I'm also very passionate in other use cases about tracing, like how many counterfeit medication there are on emerging markets in Africa and Latin America. How do you know they are really the validation? What is the validation of those medications? Everything about the circular economy, from raw material to production to consumer to beyond, and also about consumer loyalty. How do you create better consumer loyalty programs through blockchain? At Hedera, we work in several areas, but Hedera really solves three main problems. One is data integrity and efficiency. builds trust in our industry because we have trusted validators, which are the council members, and then operational efficiency, and especially now with AI. So the use cases that I'm excited exactly into solving those problems. The problem of trust is something that we have been trying to solve since, I guess, humans been alive.
Right. Since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning of time. Wouldn't it be lovely to be able to trust people and not have to question anymore?
Right. No, yeah, for sure. No, I love that you brought up all those different projects and what they're solving, and that you said you come from humble beginnings and from our communities. That's another reason why I'm in this space as well. Just seeing what you mentioned, saving, especially here in the States, our folks that are using Western Union to send money back to Mexico, and the fees that are incurred on both ends. And this could definitely solve that in so many different ways. So, and before we close out, what's maybe like a fun fact that you want to leave the people with? Something that maybe people don't know about you, or maybe might be surprised?
Well, and another fun fact perhaps is something different. It's like most people think about me just like a finance person, but I'm really much also a business person. Like I love creating business models and coming with creative ideas. But one of the most, and I talk about my passion for financial inclusion and my passion for technology to better humanity and to better people's life. But one of the passions where I'm starting to spend a little bit more of time, it is in longevity and life science is something that is very close to my heart, because when you think about financial inclusion, when you have access, it gives you, building assets gives you access to opportunities. And one of the great opportunities is access to good health. And when you feel strong and happy mind, happy body, then a lot of amazing things can be created. We can create great things, but when you don't feel healthy. And unfortunately, I have seen a lot of sickness in my family, and especially with my mother. And it's one of the things that I'm also want to be focused is eventually. And I do believe that blockchain can also help for that. When we think about precision medicine and how sometimes you go to the doctors and another long time conversation, but I do see that there is great opportunities. That's one of the things that perhaps people will not think about me. That is another of my passions and areas where I spend my time. Besides being a mom and a wife and a daughter and friend.
Right. Which full-time job in itself. And we definitely need to have a side conversation, but I've met some people that are utilizing blockchain for more of, because data for medicine has been used mostly on European medical data. And so I love that I met someone last year who is using blockchain to get more data on, Caribbean and other marginalized communities that are really more of the population of the world, so that the medicines and medical practices are based more off of that information and that data, which I think is fascinating. I think we're both in agreement that blockchain, Web3 has potential to impact so many different aspects of our lives. So before we leave, please let us know how anyone can get in contact with you, any and all ways.
It's always easier via LinkedIn, although I'm very, very slow to reply. Sometimes it's very hard. But when you comment, sorry, I just need to make this comment. When you said about data, that's what I was trying to say. Like, that's what blockchain solves: data integrity and efficiency. And in terms of medicine, is trusting the data. Are there all the populations included? Are there people like me and you included? Same thing in AI. People like us, are we included in the AI machine? Will be included because decisions will be made by AI. And that is around the corner. So we need to be part of those conversations. We need to make sure that the data set includes that and no one can delete it, and that we trust it, and that we can ensure it is there.
Exactly. So thank you so much for being here with us today and for sharing a little bit about your story and everything that you do in the space. I love to see more people as yourself in positions of power that are creating, making decisions on the possibilities of what everything can be. Special thanks to our Butterscotch queens and kings out there for joining this conversation, and be sure to check out all of our inaugural episodes. Thank you so much.